Give it 1 second. It's still connecting.
Okay, good.
And you are on. 1 second. It's still connecting.
Okay. Is it on anything?
Yes, you are on. I had to mute it. You were actually answering the YouTube.
Okay, so are we okay with the way it's running now?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to start our work session, July 14th, 2020. We're live streaming on YouTube, so let's hopefully see how this works out, and we won't have so many interruptions with the way we were doing it before. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you do a roll call for us, please?
Sure. We have Councilmember Christine Adamczak,
Yes,
Here.
she's here.
Councilmember Linda Hammer,
She's here.
Councilmember Jerry Kaminsky,
Present.
Councilmember Brian Nowak,
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski,
Present.
Councilmember Rick Rushniak,
Here.
and Supervisor Diane Benchkowski.
Here. Okay, 7 present. First item on the work session is for us to review the town board resolution items. So if you pull out your packet for tonight's meeting, we do have a public hearing tonight about the Royal Car Wash. So they will have people speaking at that meeting and commenting. So we'll see how that works out. We're still in our early phases of public hearing, so hopefully that won't be a problem. First item was the item resolution from last meeting, the authorized amendment to the 2020 annual action plan for community development. I have tabled that, hoping I would get some more information, which I have never received from the Director of Community Development. There is a subrecipient that is part of this action plan that I feel we still need to have the information presented to us under their subrecipient contract from 2019, and they still haven't provided us that. So that's the problem I have with that.
What information, what subrecipient, and there are 2 different contracts. One is 2020 CDBG year round, and the other one is the COVID emergency fund. So what's the holdup and why are you pumping the brakes?
Well, actually, they're all in the same category. We're just revising our 2020 plan. So I'm still waiting. And the subrecipient is Resurrection Life Food, or it's Resurrection Life Church actually sends us the invoices, and that's who we have the contract with. And they're one of our newer subrecipients. So I had, according to HUD guidelines, you really need to monitor them, especially the first couple of years. And we haven't received much detailed information. This is there's a recipient contract here. How many pages is it? It's like 50 pages. So some of the things that they really are, required to hand over to us is detailed reporting. For instance, they need to submit to us, subrecipient submits and maintains all fiscal records and documentation in accordance with fiscal procedures as established by HUD. We don't have any of that. And I'll just try to go through. I mean, there's a number of things. There's probably at least 20 very important items. Also, I had a problem with the funding recognition. They are supposed to, according to this contract, the subrecipient shall ensure recognition of the role of HUD and the town in providing services through this agreement. All activities, facilities, items utilized pursuant to this agreement shall be prominently labeled as to funding source, which is the town of Cheektowaga community block grant funds. In addition, the subrecipient will include a reference to the support provided herein on all publications made. So I had questioned them to ask, when that they're going to do that, because some of the information I've received does not have any of that on there. But furthermore, there's also even more detailed information that it's on page. Okay. Intake files, which provide data on participant characteristics required for federal reporting. Logs on files documenting attendance of participants. Financial records as required by HUD 24/570.502. Daily log and timesheets of each employee with total hours worked and hours devoted solely to CDBG activity. E, payroll records detailing hours and amounts paid, withholdings in accordance with laws and regulations. F, payroll reports evidencing compliance with payroll reporting required by federal and state regulatory agencies. G, contracts for any fourth party agreements. H, certifications for any contractors or subcontractors. I, invoices, travel reports, receipts, and other independently prepared documents supporting allowable charges to the program. J, evidence of payment for all costs claimed for reimbursement in connection with the program. I'll skip over a few of these generalized ones, but another one is monthly performance reports, which track the progress of applicants through the program process. And our minutes of the meetings of the subrecipients board of directors, which I think is very important. We don't see any of that yet. I'm still waiting for this information. Client data for individuals who must qualify individually or by household for benefits to be provided by the program. Such data shall include, but not limited to, client name, address, income level, or other basis for determining eligibility, and description of service provided. Where the activity qualifies under the low, moderate income beneficiary objective, maintain data substantiating Section 8 low, moderate income eligibility of recipients. Such information shall be made available to town monitors or their designees for review upon request, which I have requested since February. And there's also numerous other reports, but I think Exhibit B is the major one, which is sign-in sheets for clientele. And I mentioned that before, but that's also mentioned in Exhibit B. And this is a standard contract for all of our subrecipients.
So can I jump in and ask some questions then? So I have volunteered numerous times at Resurrection Life Food Pantry, most recent being they had 300 plus clients come there and they're all registered. They have a very efficient system going. It's
Great.
My ask is, you're asking for fiscal invoices, but we get those monthly in order to reimburse them. So we as a town shouldn't be reimbursing a single red cent if they're not turning over a requisition or an invoice to the town showing what those expenditures are. So if you're saying we don't have any of that for 2+ years, then that falls on us for not doing our due diligence. But I know they turn them in because I've seen them when I've sat down and looked at their files. I know
They only give you a ledger though, Brian. They give you a ledger.
Okay, so
that's not, no, it says they have to show you the actual hours worked, and they're not doing that. They're only giving us a ledger just saying how much that person was paid. And it's the gross amount. It's not even showing any federal taxes taken out of that. That we're supposed to actually see the payroll amount.
They get reimbursed for the gross amount. First of all, it's not the net amount that they get reimbursed for. So the gross amount's fine because we're not paying them for the employee withholding taxes. Their payroll system, I'm not sure if it's through ADP or another company, but even if it is through QuickBooks, it's a cash accrual system that we approve every month for their reimbursements. As for the recognition, I mean, what would satisfy you on that? A banner outside during food pantry pickup saying that, funded by HUD and Cheektowaga CDBG, or I don't understand.
Well, I'm just saying is they need to be in compliance, but there's more detailed records that they need to provide, and what they're providing is nothing compared to what the other subrecipients. Where
So-
is the client individual login sheets and data?
That's all on file there, because as for Feedmore, Western New York, they require a lot of information to approve a client.
I agree, but why? They're supposed to provide that to us, the town. So we're the
It depends.
grantee.
So what exactly is it you're looking for in regards to the clients? I mean, they could, you're right, if they're not hitting print a report to show us how many clients they're serving, then that's wrong on them. But as for how much information you're looking to gather,
It's right in the, it's in
there's
the
also-
contract.
we can't collect some information that is in their system. So, are you asking of this for all the recipients as well?
Yes,
And they've
we
all
do get
submitted
it,
that,
yes.
and every single recipient except this one
Mhm.
has given you all the information you requested to the T.
Not to the T, but they've been our
But they've been
recipients for
approved. Their
years.
contracts have all been signed and approved as of right now, right?
Yes, because I was able to get the client data. Yes.
Okay. And my next thing is, you said this has been going on since February, asking and requesting this data and this information from the past director. How come I was not made aware of this, being the chair of that?
You could have asked for it too. There's many times, I'm not aware of what you're,
How come I wasn't
requesting.
aware that this information was requested and not answered to and brought to you as you requested?
Brian, there's many times I'm not aware of what you're doing. We're co-chairs of many other departments, and you don't tell me what you're doing with the department heads. You're not telling me what you're requesting. And anybody could have requested this information. Any board member could have requested this. You should have been asking for this information. You should have been asking.
I see that information when the recs are turned in and we approve their payments. So I'm satisfied seeing the invoices that come in. And I'm assuming that finance would be satisfied also, or they wouldn't be paying those recs
No,
out.
finance has nothing to do with it. It's the department head of community development. It's on him to make sure we have this. And it's on me as the chief financial officer. And I can't approve this any longer, signing another agreement and giving another additional 60-some thousand dollars to the subrecipient until they're in compliance with this subrecipient agreement.
Well, you just said not
Diane,
all the
sir.
recipients are in compliance, so I don't think we should be doing anybody who's not in compliance, and you can't cherry pick and go after one if they're not to the T then.
I
Well,
agree, Brian, but here's the question I've got. Excuse me, Jerry Kaminsky.
Okay.
Aren't we audited by HUD every year on these numbers and all these finances? Has
No,
there
no,
been any issues or any wrong that HUD has seen?
Yes, actually, I do have a report here, yes. Yes, there
And
have
if
been
that-
other issues,
Against
and
Restoration Life,
they haven't even audited 2019, and that's what I was asking for, 2019. They haven't even audited that yet. So, and they haven't done an internal audit, but I can ask for that.
So,
That's a very
by
good
law-
question.
by law, they don't need a 2019 audit yet. They could have filed an extension, which brings them until November 15th, which is very common with nonprofit organizations.
Correct. Yes. So that's
I
why I
feel-
wanted 18 and 19's information. They're a new subrecipient. The others have provided the information that I required in order to go into the next year. This one hasn't, and I couldn't wait
This
any
is,
longer.
this is what you're requiring, not HUD. So I deal with this contract all the time with the city of Buffalo and by community centers. We're a subrecipient of HUD dollars. We submit the exact same paperwork for requisitions to the city to get reimbursed. We submit the exact same client characteristic forms and collect the same information and demographics from our clients to prove that they are low to mod income or that they are senior citizens, which is limited clientele, and they automatically are able to receive these funds. We do the exact same information there. So I don't know what more you're asking for, which is outside of the scope.
I'm asking for compliance of the subrecipient agreement. It says specifically here, Brian, client data, client name, address, income level, other basis for determining eligibility.
So Councilman Nowak's
See that
holding up
part?
there the form. Can you hold that up again, please, Councilman Nowak? That is the form that's required to be filled out by Feedmore, Western New York, that collects all that demographics. It is on site right there. It is not to leave that site. They're to store it for 7 years, if I'm correct, by HUD guidelines, and keep it on site there to be viewed at any moment. I don't think they
Yes,
should
here.
be making copies of 400, 500 recipients that come through food pantry and ship that box over to town hall to get into anyone's hands.
We would
Well,
put a
then-
binder.
this specifically states sign-in sheets for clientele, including client intake forms and certification documentation, will be provided along with sign-in sheets from locations for reporting purposes. This is on Exhibit B.
Correct, I get that. But you can go there and see 2 years worth of sign-in sheets. They shouldn't have to photocopy 2 years of sign-in sheets at
They
3
can
to 4
scan them
days.
in to me electronically. They shouldn't even have to photocopy. Just scan them in. Just send them. But they haven't provided any of that information as a new
It's very
subrecipient.
simple to do when you have a limited staff number and you're taking from direct services to say, spend a week or two scanning 200 plus, client sign-in sheets for 2 years. And we're going to hold up your payments now and funding to provide services to the community.
Absolutely. I'm the chief executive officer and I'm the chief financial officer. So if we go ahead and continue on this path, knowing what I know that they haven't been in compliance, I'm the one, and this whole board is going to be accused of not overseeing that program correctly.
May I
So-
have a moment to share my thoughts on this?
Yes.
This is
Go
the
ahead.
HUD report from the most recent HUD report. It's 8 pages. It says we have been doing our job as a town in accountability. No red flags. This is from the 3 years prior. Same thing, no red flags.
They weren't a subrecipient 3 years ago though, Brian.
Well,
For the most recent-
I'm sorry. This is the 2018 report. I would just like to speak and not get interrupted.
Mhm.
So this is the 2018 report where they were a subrecipient. Now, as far as one of the things like identifying a funding source, one of the items they have to meet in terms of making compliance, it's a very easy thing for Resurrection Life to do. This is the client intake form as Resurrection Life uses. This is a blank version. If I had a version filled out, it would have individuals' names, all sorts of information, some of which is sensitive and even private. So we got to be very careful to the degree that these are released and photocopied and sent around. This is what Feed More Western New York does. Resurrection Life actually goes above and beyond what Feed More Western New York does in the collection of information. And lastly, it is my belief that there has been no direct request to Resurrection Life as of 5 p.m. today for any of this information, that the requests made thus far were indirect.
Yes, to the Director of Community Development, which is according to the contract. He is to request that. That's the way the contract is written. If you look at if you read the contract very closely. The
Right.
fact of the matter is,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
this is HUD federal money that is given to, this is taxpayer money that we need accountability for. And shame on all of us for not asking for the specific documents that are required according to the subrecipient's contract.
I
Shame
reviewed
on all of us.
intake statements today, so no shame on me. I did my homework.
I've
You have,
also-
you have all the client data. It says here, you have all the sign-in sheets for clients, including their name, address, and what level of income they're in.
Supervisor, I did not do a thorough, detailed
Well,
review.
How
of
are you going to explain that to HUD when they come in?
Supervisor, I did not do a detailed, thorough review of every single client statement. It was a huge binder. Each client has 1 page front and back with a variety of information. It would take weeks for an individual to do a thorough review, one individual to do a thorough review of all these things.
They should be giving it to us monthly. It says
What I
right here,
looked at-
monthly.
What I looked at today gave me all the confidence in the world that the subrecipient is doing their homework and doing what's asked of them to collect the information. We're getting payroll statements from the hub coordinator and what she is being paid. We're getting information from these client intakes that's being stored with the subrecipient. That's what's said in the contract. I'm comfortable with the amount of information that is being stored. Even if you look at the zip codes, the information based on zip code of who's being fed here, overwhelming majority of them are 14225, 14227. You have 14215 within the town of Cheektowaga and a few other zip codes, 14043. And some of the folks that aren't town residents that are getting fed are homeless veterans with an agreement with the VA. So if the issue comes down to feeding non-town residents, and we're gonna parse over a couple meals going to homeless veterans, I guess I'll have that discussion, but I prefer not to.
So you think it's only a couple meals? Really? Okay, so what are we gonna say to HUD when they come in and ask for this documentation? This is required by HUD.
So HUD does not come to the town and say, hey, show me all of your recipients, sign-in sheets and all that. What HUD will do is come in, do the, look over the books and the finances on how we distributed the funds, grab a sample size and go review that organization at that location. At that point is when they would turn over all of their sign-in sheets and everything that you're requesting as if it's a full audit of them. That is how the way it works. They're to keep their records on file for 7 years as per HUD's regulations for that exact purpose.
And all that information is on file.
It's not
I agree.
given to the town. It's specifically states it's to be given to the town. And the other subrecipients do that.
You just said they don't. You said you
They
don't.
do. I sent those over to Brian Nowak, the last report I got.
You
I
said you
received
don't.
that
everything
yesterday,
comes from the other
and I've
recipients.
been looking through it. I received that yesterday, and I've been looking through
Wanted
it.
to see
But
what
to
I
date,
was,
Resurrection Life has not been asked to provide this information.
well, then that's on our department head then. I thought he was in the process of getting that for me.
How did the other recipients get you their stuff? Did you ask them or did the department head?
The department head asked them. I got that from a county, actually. They're doing what they should be doing. Attaching a detailed statement of who they're servicing for that quarter. And I have that. Belmont gives us a whole list of people they served and a summary report. And Supportive Services gives us all the names and addresses of people who that's their weatherization project. I mean, there's also, don't forget, is whatever you're looking at that audit or that report is really not an audit, Councilmember Nowak. But if the Inspector General comes in here, we need to have all this information and we don't. So that's my issue with it. It's accountability. It's our job as elected officials to make sure these are HUD dollars, federal dollars that are given to the town are being used in accordance with the subrecipient agreement. And we have nothing on file even close to what is expected here.
Supervisor, I agree with you. And the subrecipient under the contract has to hold the documents. The subrecipient is holding the document. And when I asked the subrecipient to allow me to review documents, I was able to do so, and I was able to review the client intake statement to make sure that information was getting collected as it needed to. Did I look through every single form of all 1,800 people that were on a list that I saw earlier? Every single address, every single zip code, every single first and last name, every single race, age, gender, all these things? No, I didn't look at every single detail. That would have taken an individual weeks. But I did my due diligence in making sure that the binder wasn't just an empty full of papers. I'm comfortable with the internal measures being used by this subrecipient to collect the information needed to meet HUD requirements. I see no issue.
Yeah, I wonder if HUD's going to be okay with that. So, I mean, there is an Inspector General there. If I have a problem with it, I will be calling the Inspector General. So if I don't, well, now we have a new Community Development Director coming on board, and she should be able to get that information from me. I've already talked to her about it.
I agree with Councilman Nowak. I've seen their system in place, their computer system for sign-ins and their log systems, all that stuff. I feel comfortable with it. If you feel you need to call the Attorney General in to inspect them, I mean, you're making it sound like they're committing fraud, so.
No, I'm just asking for the information.
Okay, but have
An
you asked
agreement's an
that?
agreement.
I personally feel that one recipient is being targeted right now. And then I felt that way from jump, and I've mentioned it before, and this to me just shows it.
It's the newest subrecipient. We don't have any of the detailed information for 2 years now. That's my issue with it. The others have given us that.
When Rachel asks for that information, it will be the first time Resurrection Life receives a request that I am aware of for the information. So this entire discussion is happening in the context of Resurrection Life not getting a formal request for this information.
It says monthly performance
This has never
reports.
been, this has never been an issue in the past. There has been no issues with any of the audits, whether they were in town, out of town, or whatever. And I guess the only way that I can put it, sometimes you have to put trust in people. You can't do anything on a personal basis. And I agree with Brian Polarski. I mean, is somebody doing something wrong blatantly, or are we going to try and micromanaging people? And
Jerry,
the only
when you,
other
if you
thing
make that statement to
doesn't make
HUD,
sense to me, well,
if you make,
why did we put this resolution out if you didn't have the information? Why was it even put on paper?
I'm sorry, I can't understand you, Jerry.
No, why was the resolution even brought out? For the simple reason you're claiming you didn't have any of this information for 2 years. It should have never been brought up until you got it. If it's that disastrous, which I do not think it is.
Well, I guess we'll just leave it up to HUD to determine how disastrous this is. And I think the taxpayers also, they're the ones that put their trust in us to hold people accountable. And that's what I had run for. My passion is accountability here. And if we're in an agreement with a subrecipient using federal money that's given to the town, they need to be in compliance. That's all I'm asking for. And if there's nothing to hide, then we should have that in our records monthly, our monthly performance report.
Supervisor, I agree. And I commend you for that being your mission. I think that's the mission of everybody on this board. This is
I would hope so.
intake form that Resurrection Life uses. Councilman Polarski has been talking about the internal measures the organization uses. I think everybody on this board is aware to the degree the information is collected by Resurrection Life. Again, they have not gotten a formal request for this information yet. So this conversation is happening within that context. If we ask for client intake forms or to review them, going over to Old Union Road and, walking inside, we can all take a look at some of these. We can't photocopy them, take them out and call these people's houses, nor should we. There's a certain degree of privacy that has to be involved. You go to Feeding America, you go to the various food bank websites, they have privacy statements. This is sensitive information.
Not this one isn't.
Even with Belmont, there's some sensitive information here. Should the town get that to make sure that the money is being spent properly? Yes, we should get access to it. But we need to make sure that we're keeping this stuff tightly under wraps so that way people's personal info is not getting out there. This is available to any council member that wants to head over to Resurrection Life and take a look at the binder full. And there's a binder full of folks that is brand new just from COVID. And one of the things that have changed recently, because this may come up in the future, is that, if somebody says they're food insecure, you can't question their income right now. That's a policy change at the state level. You just got to feed them. Am I wrong, Councilman Polarski, on that? Am I correct on that?
You're correct.
All right, just want to make sure. But this information is there. So I just want to make sure that we're all aware of two things in this discussion. One, the formal request for this information hasn't happened yet. And two, the information is available.
I'm not saying, but the formal request doesn't even have to be made. It's according to the subrecipient contract that should have been being submitted. And they're not doing that. They can't just hold that information. They have to submit it to us.
The contract says that the subrecipient shall provide information. It doesn't say required to provide information or must. It says shall.
No, right here. It's on item number 4, progress reports. The subrecipient shall submit regular progress reports to the town in the form, content, and frequency as required by the town.
You're correct, Supervisor. You're absolutely correct. And that's the word shall that I pointed out. So we agree on the language. Shall.
It means must. Shall means must.
Shall means shall. It doesn't mean
shall.
No, Attorney Duziak, doesn't shall mean that they will do that in legal terms. That's why they use the word shall.
Shall is typically a term of art that would be synonymous with must, in my opinion.
And that's what I've been told by another attorney. So none of these quarterly reports are here. So all I'm saying is that we want to give them more money, which I'm in favor of giving them more money, but I need to see the reports, the accountability of that money before we can give them another $60,000.
Then why don't you ask for a formal request?
I will be working with Rachel now, the new department of community.
Then we're just beating the bushes here, making no sense of anything, talking about the same thing over and over and over. And this is bull. We got to get these meetings moving. This is just redundance. This is crazy.
So Rick, you don't have a problem with the way that there's no accountability
Not what,
with cut
just
money?
what I've seen right here. You know, it's not my department. I understand already where these two guys looked at this information and it's there. All you gotta do is you wanna ask for it, they'll put it together and get it to you. It's very simple. It's
You
just
can do it
cut
for-
and dry.
Rick, you could do what Brian did, go over to Lord of Life and look at it.
Right. I'm happy with what I seen with
No,
our
it's life.
department
Yes.
heads here.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, this is what I have to say is now that Rachel oversees the department, there could be more communication and hopefully she can get us the information that she is looking for, that the supervisor is now looking for. My fear is that if this does not get passed, I feel that we are putting people who really need the food in danger of not
Yes.
getting food.
You're
That's
absolutely right, Chris.
That's my concern.
Well,
But-
that won't happen, Chris, because they're supported by Feed More Western New York. This is a pantry. So the food isn't going to be going, or the money's not going to be going to purchase food.
There-
There's still costs there because they're teamed up with Feedmore. You still have to pay per pound that you buy from Feedmore. So there's still costs for freight and delivery and all that stuff with that partnership. It's not a completely 100% free where they just dump food offline and you give it out.
Councilman Pilarski, you may know the answer to this question. Has the demand for food pantries since the beginning of COVID increased or decreased?
Oh, it's definitely increased.
Definitely increased? Okay, thank you.
So,
And it's
but
gonna
why,
increase more now that unemployment's running out in next week.
exactly. So why wouldn't we be giving more money to help assistance with paying for utility bills and rental assistance to our residents? And then
Because
they
they can
could still get the food at the
And then
food
die
pantry.
of hunger, I guess. I mean, you need
But there
food to
will be
survive.
a food pantry there. There is a food pantry that will give out, whether it's that pantry or another pantry. So to me why wouldn't we be trying to help people make ends meet and give them the assistance to pay their rent or their mortgage? They don't want to lose their home, or utilities. Oh, and only up to 1 month we're offering according to this plan.
Right. The COVID funding has money for those items. We also have money for the food pantries. You know, it's great to have your air
It's a
conditioning.
lot of money for the food
Starved to
pantry.
death, you have an air conditioning running, cooling down a carcass, and nobody wants that. And I think we all agree on the need to make sure that we have utility assistance. That's why it's in the budget. I think we all agree on the vast majority agrees on putting money to food banks. I think all of us want to see money go to food banks. We all agree on that. The disagreement seems to be on the accountability measures of this organization. And after my review of their internal measures and these items and getting a sense of how the conversations have gone since the beginning of February relative to this issue, I'm comfortable with moving ahead on this resolution as is and taking Councilman Rosiniak to say, hey, we got to get this meeting moving. I believe we should go ahead and vote on this item.
I agree.
Well, it'll be at the next meeting.
What will be at the next meeting?
This is just the work session.
All right.
Okay, we got resolution under the regular consent agenda, the warrant. Does anybody have any questions?
I've raised my concern to you in a phone call, so I'm all set otherwise.
Did you get your answers?
After speaking with Dan Jones, I'm comfortable with what I know on it and after looking at the paperwork relative to the bill. So
Resolution 2 is the seeker review for the small cell wireless for Verizon Wireless. Does anybody have any questions on that? I think we have the department head on the meeting if you have any questions on it. Pat Bowen's here. Pat, did the EAC review that? Do you know?
No, I don't recall reviewing that.
Yeah, because I don't know, maybe John Duziak knows. Do they have to, or is it just up to the board when it comes to the small small wireless? It might not have to go to EAC.
I'm sorry, Supervisor, you cut out when the initial part of that question.
Okay, so the question was, did it go through the EAC? I asked Pat Bowen, who is the chairman of the EAC, Environmental Advisory Committee, and it didn't go through them, but I'm assuming it's because they're small wireless.
That's correct.
That they don't have to, right? It's
Correct.
just up to the board. Okay, so everybody's okay with it? Resolution 3, approve the purchase of police car computers. We have the chief here if anybody has any questions for him. Resolution 4 is uniforms for central garage.
Yes, I have a question.
Mhm.
How come the uniforms are not being done when we do all of the uniforms for the town at the beginning of the year?
Well, those weren't done because of COVID. They were going to be putting a notice to bidders. This is a different service for the central garage. They don't
Okay.
actually, it's a cleaning service where they switch out the
Okay.
uniform. It's not like they're given that uniform to wear throughout the year. They get a clean one and they do the cleaning because that's just such, working with the cars and the grease and whatever. And I do want to commend the department heads, both actually Kevin Godzek and Tom Carney, for looking into a more cost-effective way of getting this done. It's going to save us some money.
Okay.
Number 5 is approve the health insurance plan. Any questions on that? Brian Kraus is on if anybody has any questions. Approve implementation of the Right RX pharmacy program. I think that was worked on with Brian Kraus and Karen Marchese. 7 is purchase of excess liability insurance. 8 is the municipal cooperation agreement for sharing of attorneys to defend assessment challenges. Thank you to our assessor, Jill Murphy, for always trying to get the shared services together, especially when we're working with the schools. So this actually agreement is so that we can do a shared service with the schools when it comes to assessment challenges. What Resolution 9 is to retain Auctions International for auction of surplus vehicles and equipment.
Yeah, I had a question on this item.
Mhm.
Are we going to be retaining auctions as a supplement to the prior company, or
Yes.
going right with auctions only?
It doesn't say exclusively. So we, like the last one we had, we didn't get any, a good return with cash. So we went to auctions. So we
Okay.
can use it depending on the return.
No, originally, Diane, we had Auctions International for the last 2 years. Then we switched to cash and we got beat up something terrible with them.
Not on everything though, Jerry. It just depended on what it was, but we it's good to have 2 options. Let me just say that.
Yeah, it's good to have an alternative. So this is one of those things that'll get signed immediately after, and we're going to move forward with
Yeah,
using.
I was wondering why Kevin Godzik hasn't auctioned anything off this summer. This is the time of year he should be doing that. I guess-
He's on it now. He's starting to put it together. I just talked to him.
Pandemic, you know.
What, right, but Jerry said last time we did it in November, and he said that wasn't a good time. So when is a good time?
Right.
He's setting
Well,
one
the
up
biggest
now,
thing-
Diane.
The
Pardon
problem
me,
with
Jerry?
that one in November, we had a snow all of a sudden. Nobody could even look at the vehicles.
Not this past November. Maybe it was the November before that.
Yeah, possibly being the one before.
Yeah. Okay, then number 10 is execute memorandum of understanding. That was Jill Gorman's on. They're letting softball league or little league use some of our baseball diamonds. Correct, Jill? Do you want to?
Yes,
explain
there's
that?
actually, I believe, 5 individual organizations that are renting diamonds, and they're renting them, more than once. So the attorney and I spoke, and we felt due to, COVID and everything, we should put it through via resolution. So everybody was aware of what organizations are renting. And we put the dates and everything will be listed in their contracts that they will sign, including having COVID language in there.
And there's also holding the town harmless, correct? For
Yes, we
insurance
put we've
purposes.
Correct. We put the indemnification language in there, and we also already have all their certificates of insurance, and we also have all the contracts signed. So we're all set.
Correct. Okay.
That's accurate, Supervisor.
Okay. Thank you both for working on that. There's also a memorandum of agreement number 11 for the supervisor to sign with the TCEA. We have an employee who's has a serious health condition and he's running out of sick time. So this allows other TCEA members to donate some of their time to him. Anybody have any questions on how that works? Karen Marchese, do you want to take over the personnel ones?
Yes, we are beginning to be in the hiring phase again, and Resolution 12 is the hiring and termination of part-time and seasonal employees. Oh, okay, let me start my video. I apologize for that. Okay, here we go. The hiring and termination of part-time and seasonal employees. We have part-time in facilities, as we discussed at the last work session. We also have the transition of a clerk in the courts to part-time. And we also have the hiring of some seasonal employees. And this is reflecting also that an employee is retiring from the, I'm sorry if my video isn't there. I apologize for that.
There it is. You're on now.
Okay, thank you so much. Then we have the ending of an employee who's retiring from the courts, and also the ending of an employee who is leaving the sanitation department. Resolution 13 is the
Wait, can we go
appointment of
back to 12? Wait a minute.
Sure.
Where does it say termination of a sanitation employee?
If you scroll down, it's on the second page of that resolution.
Oh, so you must have added it after I had it printed.
We did. Scott Coel just got us the names yesterday, so we updated the resolution to reflect that.
And what about the season? It says the seasonal and or part-time employee be hereby terminated, Marianne Zadowitz. Isn't she a full-time?
She was, and I'm confused about that. So I'm going to ask that we amend that. She actually retired.
Yes.
So that may be something that we don't need included on this resolution, and thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to ask the town clerk to amend the resolution to remove Marianne Zadowitz's name from this resolution.
That whole resolved, correct?
Well, there is one employee on that second page that does need to be.
I don't have the
terminated.
second page. Can you let me know who?
His name is Patrick Santoro, effective July 10th. He's being terminated, or he quit. So it's not us terminating him.
So he's being
quit.
terminated, okay, along with Marianne, but take Marianne out, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
If the board could agree to that, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, well, we're in the work session now, so that's where we can make these changes on
We can
the,
make those amendments. If anybody has any questions, please let me know. And then resolution 13, I believe that the department had reached out to everyone on this. It's the appointment of 2 code enforcement officers in building and plumbing / housing neighborhood preservation. We have Donald Wartinger and Mark Bielfeld. If anybody has any questions on that, please do ask. And then resolution 14 is the appointment of a senior clerk, again, in the building and plumbing / housing and neighborhood preservation department. This is Suzanne Sanskrantz. If anybody has any questions regarding that, please do ask. Then we have the appointment of a senior court clerk, Jean Ping. Jean is inside the department. She's taking a promotion to senior court clerk, and congratulations and good luck to Jean. Also, appointment of a maintenance worker. This is a result of a retirement. Gabriel Foster. Gabe is currently an employee, and this will also be a promotional step for him. So congratulations, should the board agree. And then I would like to address one item under the suspension of rules, but I believe there is one item ahead of my item.
could I just ask, can you go back to the senior court clerk? Well, don't we need a resolution in order to make an opening for a new senior court clerk?
Isn't
there a termination?
That was reflected in the part-time and seasonal. She was transitioned to, hold on, let me see. She was transitioned to part-time. We could also include, that's Nicole Pukalon.
Well, wait a minute, no. we can't because we don't have an opening yet. I talked to I think Judge Spire, is somebody else leaving, Judge, in order to make an
No.
opening?
Nicole Pucalo, can you hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay. She had the full-time, she did resign that position, and we're giving her back to her old part-time position, which she is very good at. So I don't know how that works personnel-wise, but that's what we're in effect doing.
Okay, let me look at the resolution for the senior clerk. We could say in the first whereas, a provisional vacancy exists as a result of a resignation of the provisional employee in the position of senior court clerk in the justice court.
Okay.
Right.
So that would be in the first whereas, a provisional vacancy exists as a result of the resignation of a provisional employee in the position of senior court clerk in the justice court. I would ask that that amendment be made to resolution number 15 to reflect how this transaction will take place.
Okay, but I'm still questioning though, I didn't sign the T-77 yet about Nicole going into the part-time because in the budget, Judge, you have 3 part-timers now. And if you
No,
just add Nicole at that rate.
We had 5 part-timers.
Well, right, but at her rate is what I'm saying, that you wanted to pay her.
Oh, okay, yeah, so we had 3 and now we'll only have 2.
So we have to
We didn't
terminate
call
one.
back- We haven't called any, we only called back 1 other part-timer. The rest are still laid off.
Well, that's what I mean. I wanted to know, because in your budget, you only had 3 at the $15 an hour. Well, you only had room for 2 and they were currently just laid off. So I asked, before we can put Nicole in one of those, who are you, going to terminate? That's
Well,
what,
we don't know who's coming back because we don't have an idea of when they can come back. We haven't gotten the green light from the board to hire all of our part-timers back.
no, but I
We are
thought that, I don't even know how this got on here because Karen, I didn't sign the T-77 for this because I was waiting for the judge. Our discussion was there's not enough money for these 3 people that are on the books right now at $15 an hour. So one of them, and you were going to make the phone calls and figure out.
Yeah, Diane, you, myself and Judge Stevens talked last week.
Yes.
And we agreed that we would call back Michelle as a part-timer. She did
Okay.
take the job back. We now have her and Nicole. They'll be
Okay.
the only 2 at that pay rate. The rest, if they come back, will be at a lower pay rate.
Okay, so then we need to amend that last person, that other one at $15 an hour. We need to amend that. Because,
Are you talking to Karen or me or?
no, well, I guess, yeah, I didn't know this was going on. I had mine printed, so I don't know how this resolution got changed after it was put in and submitted into Minitrack and went live. Somehow, there's all this new stuff on here after I printed it out the day that it went live. So,
Again, we had, Scott Coal had names that he had already started, people, and also John Jaroszewski had people that had already started. So we put them on. If you would prefer to take them off and just have them on the next meeting's resolution, that's fine.
all right, I guess we have to figure this out for the next meeting. So maybe we'll talk further about some of these current employees under executive session. I guess I just don't understand how no resolution should really get amended once it goes live. The agenda actually goes live. The resolutions are submitted for the public. And we shouldn't be changing things.
We
without-
can certainly amend it to reflect what was there when you printed it.
Well, hopefully we'll have time later on. If we don't, then at the regular meeting, we're just gonna have to amend this one then.
Okay, that's fine.
Why don't we just do that instead of holding that up?
Okay,
Okay.
So, you went through 15 and 16. Gabe Foster was the last one, and then the two items under the suspension of rules.
correct.
Before we go any further, can I just verify that we're still on with our arrangement with the court?
Well, we have to talk, I have to talk to the board about this. And I don't know,
Okay.
Judge, because I was under the impression that you were gonna tell me which clerk was gonna be terminated at the $15 an hour.
Okay, that I know, Linda. I don't know what her name,
We can look that up because she
she was
if
a
you
new
want
hire.
her-
She will not be coming back at the $15 an hour rate. We
all right,
agreed
so
to that.
she's coming back at the minimum wage rate, you're saying. So we'd have to, we
Right.
can always do that
Right.
at the next meeting then,
Yes.
as long as I know. Nobody told me, so, and you know,
Right.
that, you know, was happening because we have so many at certain rates
we
in
did-
your budget.
Yeah, we did discuss that last week with Judge
I know.
Stevens and I.
But you didn't let me know which person was not coming back at $15 an hour. So you're saying Linda is the one that won't be, she'll be at the minimum wage, correct?
Right,
Okay,
correct.
all right, we're just gonna have to look up that name and add that onto this resolution as a termination then,
Okay,
along with the other person in the justice court you had.
I can tell you the name if you'd like.
Yes,
Okay.
well, just tell Kim to
Okay,
put that on the resolution.
thank you, Brian.
Or amend her salary, you know, because she, instead of the, her salary will be the minimum wage salary then in the court clerk. So she's not going to be terminated. She's staying on, but
Okay.
she's staying on at a different rate of pay.
I'll
she's-
email Kim that right now.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Thank
And
you
then
so much,
maybe,
Brian.
yeah, maybe we can add it somewhere like another be it resolved. That part-time employee in the courts, Linda, rate of pay will be amended to be such and such.
That would work.
Would that work for you, Kim?
Yes, I will confer with Karen and get the final, I'll send it out to everybody.
Yeah, okay. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
Kim.
much. Thanks, Kim.
And Diane, can the sanitation employees remain on, or would you prefer that they
Yes.
go on to the next meeting?
Yeah, but you don't have a rate of pay for the, all right. You have, all right. Oh, so you just,
Sanitation labor, like
11.80.
11.80 an hour. They came on the 6th of July.
okay, so you have on here sanitation department, 1180 effective 7/6, and then Patrick Santoro's under that, but then you're terminating him. Why even have him as a hire?
He worked for 4 days.
Oh. All right, so you
During a
backed it
very
up.
hot week, he worked for 4 days, and that's the kind of the reason he's not staying with us.
That's why he's
so.
in both places. Okay,
Right,
then that
yeah.
makes sense. Does anybody else have any questions on that? Okay, then we have the two items under the suspension of rules. This is the intermunicipal agreement between the town of Cheektowaga and the city of Buffalo for the police department firing range use. Any questions on that? And the second one is the appointment of the Director of Community Development, our new department head to be Rachel Stryker.
And to the board, I'd like to say that Rachel will be involved in the meeting tonight to the
Oh,
extent that
good.
she can. She will be
Okay.
present.
Good. So anybody have any questions? Okay. There is a need for an executive session to discuss litigation, which is a class action petition and complaint. Dolores Adams, Donald Whitus, and Gary Borick individually and on behalf of all others similarly situated versus Town of Cheektowaga and Jill Murphy, assessor. So I need a motion to go into executive session.
Make a motion.
Who was that?
I'll make it.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Pilarski, seconded by,
Oh,
I'll second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Give me a minute. I have to start the next meeting, so.
Diane,
I will
this is
see-
This is
Yes.
Pat. Do you need me to join you for the town board meeting?